Well, I hope you are able to see the Word file as well. Yes,
Yes,
can you?
sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, fine. So today we are going to discuss about the civil administration of Peshwa's period. We have generally discussed about the political and military history. We have discussed about the nature of confederation. The administration is also very important part. Let us start with the central administration. The king, as usual, was a key point, the focal point of the administration, Chhatrapati. And as Chhatrapati Shivaji has laid the solid foundation of the administration, but later on, because of the circumstances, Rajaram has to make certain changes. But nevertheless, till the time Shahu was alive. 1749. Till that time, he was the focal point. He was the center of all the administrative structure of the Maratha administration. And no major decision can be taken without his consent. No major expedition can be taken without his consent. But later on, during the latter phase of Shah's life, he stopped going on expedition. He started more and more depending on Peshwa, and slowly we find that he is being sidelined and Peshwa becoming prominent. But till the time at least Shahu was alive, he was paid due respect by all the segments of the Maratha Confederation, and he continued to be the central point of the administration. And after Shahu, we find that Ram Raja became Chhatrapati, but he was not very effective, and there was certain problem issues about his lineage, and because of all that, we find that the Chhatrapati's position have deteriorated, and later on Peshwa replaced him as a central point of the Maratha administration. This we have already discussed earlier, but as it is a part of administration, we are discussing it in short before we go into the detail of the other dimension of the administrative structure. Peshwa, as he acquired the power, but later on we find that during the period of after the murder of Narayan Rao Peshwa, Savai Madhavrao was a child, and most of the power now passed into the hands of Nana Fadnavis. This administrative structure had no written constitution as we have nowadays. It has evolved over a period of time. It has evolved over a period of very long tradition, and that is the reason, as there was no very strict demarcation of the duties and responsibility, it was always subjected to change. Like Chhatrapati, during the time of Chhatrapati Shivaji, he was very powerful, very capable ruler, very, very active, and he kept all the power concentrated in his hand and ruled with the assistance of his Ashtapradhan. But as we have already seen, Chau was not so active, and gradually it is Peshwa who became the central focus point of the administration. And now, during the latter phase, we found that as Savai Madhura was a child, most of the power passed into the hands of his Fadnis, who is Fadnis actually only an accountant, but now Fadnis has become supreme, and he started taking all the major decision for administrative decision for the whole of the Maratha Empire. Of course, he was resisted, and he could not interfere too much in the administration of the powerful Saranjamdar like Mahadaji Scindia. Now, to assist, as now the power has now shifted from Satara, where the Chhatrapati used to sit, to Pune, where Peshwas used to reside. So at Pune, there was a secretariat called Huzur Daftar. And this Huzur Daftar, it maintained the record of all the important document related to the royal order passed by either by Chhatrapati or by Peshwa, all the correspondence between the Saranjamdar and Peshwa, all the important documents related to the revenue and expenditure and expeditions. It had around 200 clerks, and where those clerks used to sit and keep on doing their official work, that place was called Fad. And this this secretariat, Huzur Daftar, was having two parts. One was called Chalte Daftar. Marathi Chalte means which is working. Always, they will have some work related to the all those expeditions and income and expenditure. And there was another part of that Daftar, that office, which was called Berji Daftar. And Berji Daftar was mainly responsible for the keeping an account of revenue and expenditure. Third was the part of Chalte Daftar, which was a main part of the Hudur Daftar. And this Chalte Daftar was directly under the control of Fadnis. Fadnis of Peshwa, of course. Different this Saranjamdar and different important Sardar, they also had their Fadnis who look after the account, but the Fadnis of Peshwa obviously became very important. And this Chalte Daftar, which was a main Daftar, there were different parts to this Chalte Daftar, like Fad, where the clerk used to sit and write and keep an account. Then there was a Bheda Daftar and there was Saranjami Daftar. Now, what is the Bheda Daftar responsible for? So, Bheda Daftar was responsible for the preparation of the budget, and that budget was called Tarjuma. Tarjuma is nothing but index of revenue and expenditure. So you see here during our course of discussion, you will understand that a lot of Farsi words are being prevailing in the administrative structure. Chhatrapati Shivaji has tried to do away with the Farsi words and replace it with the Sanskrit and Marathi word, but he was not very successful. Even the word Peshwa itself is a Farsi word. The Marathi synonym has to be Pradhan, but the Peshwa as a word, it continue in the administration. Similarly, we find that many Farsi words it continue to be used in the Maratha administration, because for the simple reason that the Maratha and surrounding territory was ruled over by Nizam Shahi and Adil Shahi for a very long period, and during their period, Farsi used to be the court language. So so it's but natural that those Farsi words became very prominent, very commonly used words in the administration. So this Bheda Daftar was responsible for the preparation of the budget, and then was Saranjami Daftar. Saranjami Daftar was responsible for the correspondence and important documents related to Saranjam. Saranjamdar was were nothing but the people who are like Maratha Sardar who were Saranjamdar. So, we have already discussed about the nature of Maratha Confederation. It was not a very centrally controlled administrative structure. The different Saranjamdar like Shindes and Bhosles and Holkar, they hardly had any control from the central authority. And Asiya, anything? I hope am I clear to everybody?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
okay, fine. Well. So we find that this Saranjamdar or the Maratha Sardar, they had a kind of monopoly, virtual monopoly to rule their area, except submitting a certain kind of accounts or sharing their revenue, and that many times led to the conflict about the control. But nevertheless, the Saranjamdar, they were definitely connected with the central authority, that is Peshwa now, and there was a huge correspondence between the Saranjamdar and Peshwa's office. So all their correspondence, they had a different section that is called Saranjami Daftar. So this Chalte Daftar and Huzur Daftar was having two parts, that is Chalte Daftar and Berji Daftar. Chalte Daftar was the main important working office. Berji Daftar was mainly responsible for the keeping an account of revenue and expenditure. Chalte Daftar was further having three parts, that is Fad, Beda and Saranjami. Fad is where the clerks used to sit, and Bheda Daftar was responsible for the preparation of budget, and Saranjami Daftar mainly dealt with the correspondence between the central authority as well as with the central authority and the Saranjamdar. Now, this is how we understand about the central administrative structure of Peshwa's administration. Now, let us go to the provincial administration. So, the provinces since beginning, it grown gradually. With the expansion of the Maratha kingdom, the provinces that started growing into, especially in the northern India. But during the period of Shahu has made certain provinces of the whole of the Maratha kingdom that was under his control. And that province was called Subha, or it was also called Prant. Subha again is a Persian word. Prant is a synonym of Subha in Sanskrit. So he divided the whole of the Maratha kingdom, like Khandesh and Balghat was under the control of Peshwa. Gujarat and Baglan was under the control of Senapati. Warad and eastern part was given to Bhosle, who was titled as Sena Sahib Suba. Then Gangathadi and Aurangabad area was under the control of the Sarlashkar. Nira and Varna, these are the two rivers, and the Doab area between these two rivers was given to Pratinidhi. And now as the Maratha Empire, they started expanding into north, the Malwa came in the hands of the Marathas, and the Malwa was divided into the four people, that is Peshwa, Shinde, Holkar and Pawar. So here, though these provinces were divided by Chhatrapati Shahu, as the nature of the Maratha Confederation was not very centrally controlled as it was there in the Mughal Empire, there used to be a lot of conflict between these Saranjamdar or between these Sardar. For example, there was a conflict about the control of Gujarat between Peshwa and Senapati, and that led to the battle between Bajirao first and Senapati Dabhade, leading to the unfortunate death of Senapati. Then Peshwa and Bhosle also had conflict about the control of Bengal. The Bhosle king of Nagpur, they attacked Bengal, and the Nawab of Bengal, he approached the Mughal emperor that he should be saved from the attack of this Bhosle of Nagpur. And the Mughal Empire in turn approaches Bajirao Peshwa that you should go and protect the Mughal governor, the Nawab of Bengal. And Balaji Bajirao goes and on the behalf of Mughal Empire and on the behalf of Nawab of Bengal, he fights against Bhosle. So, there was a lot of complexities. So, this demarcation of the provinces the right of the person who is appointed to look after the province was not very strictly followed in the Maratha administration. And Peshwa, as now Chhatrapati became less important, Peshwa became more important, and Peshwa brought forward his own Sardar like Shindes, Holkar, and Pawar. So Peshwa, through his officers, he tried to maintain control over these Saranjamdar. These officers were sent to check the accounts of the Saranjamdar. But it is not always very strictly followed, and the accounts were not very strictly kept. The territories that were conquered by the Marathas with the growth of the Maratha Empire are divided into the two parts. One was called Kamavishi and another was called Saranjam. Kamavishi was that area of the Maratha Empire which was under the direct control of Peshwa, and Saranjam area was obviously under the control of the Saranjamdar like Bhosles and Shindes and Holkar. And in that Saranjamdar's area, for especially in the Saranjamdar that were brought forward by Peshwa like Shindes and Holkar and Pawar, Peshwa kept certain area directly under his control, and that area is called Huzur Kamavishi. And definitely the intention was that so that in that area, Peshwa can put his officer, and that officer can keep a watch over the activities of these different Sardar. The revenue that is generated from this province is divided into the three parts, that is Mokasha, Chauth, and Sardeshmukhi. Now Chauth is 1/4 part of the revenue revenue collected, and that Chauth is given generally to the king Chhatrapati. Sardeshmukhi is again 1/10 part of the revenue, which is also given to the Chhatrapati. So these two amount, that is Chauth and Sardeshmukhi, went to the central authority, Chhatrapati first, and then later on to Peshwa. Then apart from out of the revenue collection, whatever is left over, that is almost 3/4 part, that is generally called Mokasa, and that Mokasa is further divided into the different Saranjamdar. For example, the Mokasa of Malwa was divided into the three people after the deduction of Chauth and Sardeshmukhi, that is between Peshwa, Shinde, Holkar, and Pawar, among the four people. All right, so you understand this difference between Mokasa, Chauth, and Sardeshmukhi. And remember, this Chauth and Sardeshmukhi is generally imposed on the territory which is outside the direct control of Peshwa. And especially in the initial conquest, for example, Rajasthan and Rajasthan was not completely conquered by the Marathas, but the Rajput kings were defeated, and Chauth was imposed on them. There was no Mokasa, so Chauth is a 1/4 part of the revenue that is given to the Maratha, so that the Marathas will not attack their territory. So that was one of the important source of the income for the Maratha Empire. And the area which was directly under the control of the Peshwa, only Mokasa was collected from that area, no Chauth and Sardeshmukhi. So this is how about the Subha and the revenue generated from the Subhas, which was under the control of the Saranjamdar, are called Mokasa. This Subha, that is each Prant, is also further divided. Uh, but let us first talk about the duties of Subedar. Subedar used to be the in charge of Subha Prant, and he was representative of Peshwa. He was responsible for the assessing of the revenue, delivering of justice. The account statement prepared by him should match with the account statement of Deshmukh. Now, Deshmukhs were the hereditary account keeper of the particular area, and they were in existence for a very long period. But Chhatrapati Shivaji has tried to do away with Deshmukh. Of course, he could not completely, but he reduced their power. And instead of Deshmukh, now it will be the government official who will be collecting the revenue. But Deshmukh nevertheless continued to get certain part which was traditionally acknowledged as their rights. So maybe a certain portion of the agriculture produce. So this Deshmukh, the institution of Deshmukh and their accounts who are holding the land at the different places, it was kept alive, though their power was considerably reduced. But Marathas, they used this Deshmukh to counterbalance the Saranjamdar. So Saranjamdar will prepare his statement of revenue and expenditure. Deshmukh will also prepare his statement of revenue and expenditure, and both these statements should match. And in that way, Deshmukhs were used to keep control over the Saranjamdar. Apart from that, there is one more method that is used by the Peshwa to keep control over the Saranjamdar. That is appointment of the 8 clerks, 8 important officials called Dharakdar. So, these Dharakdar used to be appointed by the central authority of Peshwa, and they were paid by the central authority of Peshwa. They were nowhere under the control of Saranjamdar, but they lived in the office of in the court of the Saranjamdar. And who were these 8 clerks? That is Diwan, Muzumdar, Padanis, Daftardar, Potnis, Poddar, Sabasad, and Chitnis. So, these are the people who reported directly to the Peshwa's office, to the central authority, and in that way, attempt was made to keep control over the Saranjamdar. Now, this Suba was further divided into the smaller area called Pargana. They are also referred as Mamla. They are also referred as Taluka. So, and they were headed by Mamledar, and the Mamledar is also sometimes referred as Kamvisdar. So, what the duties and responsibility was there of the Subedar for the whole province? Mamlatdar and Kamvisdar was responsible in his area of control, that is Taluka. So his duties were mainly to maintain the law and order and to assist Subedar in the collection of the revenue, to deliver justice, to separation of the power. That policy was not followed by the Marathas, and we find that there is a Subedar who is running the administration, and he's also delivering justice as well. So here also at the smaller level, this Mamlatdar was responsible for the collection of the revenue as well as for the delivering of justice and to run the administration. He was supposed to encourage the agriculture and industry, and also he is supposed to maintain the required force so that the peace and order can be maintained in his area of control. And that small force which he maintained to maintain peace and law and order is called Shibandi. Remember, the Shibandi is not treasury. Shibandi is a certain troops maintained by the different Maratha official, like Kamvisdar, so that the peace can be maintained. And the Shibandi was paid from the revenue collected. Now further, Pargana, the further smaller part of Pargana was Mahal. So different Mahals made Pargana, and different Parganas they made Subha. So like Mahal was called like Taraf or Tape or Karyat, and the head of this Mahal was Mahalkari or Hawaldar. And he is also assisted by Muzumdar and Fadnis, generally these two accountant and auditor. And he was given a salary of 1% of revenue. He again had the similar kind of responsibilities like Mamletdar, that is assisting in the collection of the revenue, maintaining law and order. And the smallest unit, as usual for centuries together, it continued to the village called Gao. Sometimes it is called Kasbah, sometimes it is called Mauje and Mazre. If number of villages joins together, then that becomes Kasbah. The head of this village used to be Patil, who is also referred as Mokadam, and he is assisted by Kulkarni and Chaugule. So this village, generally they were self-sufficient, hardly anything came from outside. And among the villages also, there is you might also come across Kudruk and Kurd. So Budruk is the main village which was established by the Patil, and Khurd is an extended area of the village, and later on over a period of time this Khurd also becomes a part of Budruk, and further extension was called Wadi. Wadi is generally further far away from the main village, and generally the Wadi word is used in the Konkan region. And what were the responsibility of this Patil? The Patil was supposed to try to bring more and more land under cultivation. He should be able to protect the village from the dacoits, to maintain law and order, to deliver justice. And the place where the Patil used to sit and deliver justice is called Wadi. To collect revenue with the help of Kulkarni, to deposit it in the government treasury. And Patil had some traditional right, like, the traditional right of Patil was called Haklajima. And Haklajima included, that is a grain from the farmers and goods from the Balutedar. And who were these Balutedar, I will tell you later on. But the Patil was having his hereditary right, so that he can take certain part of the agriculture produce as well as the certain part of the handicrafts that is made in the village without paying anything. He was paid from the government treasury. Also, he had certain watan. Watan was certain hereditary land that is given to him for his upkeeping. Now, next important officer at the village level was Kulkarni. And what were the responsibilities of Kulkarni? That is, he should assess the revenue. He should collect the revenue along with Patil to maintain the record of the land ownership and revenue collection. And like Patil, he also had his own certain traditional right to take certain part of the agriculture production from the villager as well as the handicrafts produced in the village. And he also had his hereditary watan, that is some land given to him for his upkeeping. There are certain references that Kulkarni was also paid salary. I think is that the administrative structure of the Marathas was not as streamlined as the Mughals could put up. Mughals, they ruled for a very long period, and the Marathas, they expanded very rapidly, and they they declined very rapidly as well. Now, this Deshmukh, as I have already referred to, Deshmukh, they also played a very important part in the, they continue to play the important part in the administration. For example, they had, traditionally, they kept the record of the ownership of land. And in case of any dispute, they were generally referred to, they were requested to produce their record. They were utilized to keep watch over the government officer, and they continue to get their tradition in the agriculture products. Like Patil and Kulkarni was taking certain things, but every village generally had a Patil and Kulkarni. But in case of Deshmukh, Deshmukh was one Deshmukh for the whole of the province. So that Deshmukh, he generally kept watch over the happening of and the working of the Patil and Kulkarni in the different villages, as well as the government officials at the district and the state level. Under one Deshmukh, there could be many villages. Deshmukh was also authorized to keep, check the amount of Kulkarni. He was supposed to ensure that the area under his control remain populated and the cultivation is increased. So, in case of depopulation, for example, during the time of the war, the people generally, to save their life, they will leave the village and take shelter in the forest. But after the war, Deshmukh is supposed to encourage these people to come back, settle, and take agriculture. Resettlement of village after the war. Deshmukh was also supposed to participate in the war in case the authority Peshwa and the Saranjamdar goes for a war. He is also supposed to supply the manpower in case of war, as well as into the forts in that region. Similarly, there was another hereditary officer called Deshpande, and he is also known as Desh Kulkarni. So in the Deshpande, he corresponds to the headship of the Patil, as Patil was the head of the different villages, and over number of villages, there was Deshpande. And as in each village, there was Kulkarni to keep an account. Similarly, over the number of Kulkarni, there will be one Deshpande. Sorry, I think I have made a mistake. Deshmukh was supposed to be the head of number of parties, and Deshpande was supposed to be the head of the number of Kulkarnis. So what Kulkarni does for one village, Deshpande is supposed to keep a watch over the Kulkarni's account. So here, Deshpande was responsible for the record of many villages, as Kulkarni was responsible for the record of one village, and he many Kulkarni. For sometimes the Subha, if it is too big, it is divided into the share of responsibility between the two Deshpandes and two Deshmukh. If the Subha is small, for one Subha, there could be only one Deshpande. So here, as Kulkarni was subordinate to Patil in the village, Deshpande was subordinate to Deshmukh at the provincial level, at the Subha level. Deshpande, he is also known as Varad Pandey in Varad region where we are staying, and Ghat Pandey in Ghat. Ghat region is a part of the Western Ghat that is surrounding Pune and Satara. Another important officer in the village was Chaugule. Chaugule was he was supposed to assist Patil in the administration of the village, to encourage the people for settling in the village, and he was supposed to measure the land. Generally, Kulkarni wrote the record and Chaugule kept it. Chaugule, he generally kept it with him. Well, then next important reference that we get about the people who played an important part in the running of the village, that is Balutedar and that. So, we have, it was definitely, the economy was mostly agriculture based, but then we need certain people who could support this agriculture. So, and support the life of the people of the village, and the people who are not involved in agriculture, but in a way supporting either the agriculture cultivation or the life of the farmer, are categorized into the two categories, that is Balutedar and Alutedar. Now, Balutedar are those people whose contribution is essential for the cultivation of agriculture. For example, carpenter, because we need certain implements to cultivate the land. So the carpenter became very important person, because without carpenter, the farmer will not get his implements. So Balutedar, carpenter comes under the category of Balutedar. Cobblers come under the category of the Balutedar because he is very important. Barber. So, they are essential for the survival of the people in village. And Mahar was important Balutedar, because the responsibility of Mahar was to safeguard the village. So without safeguarding, you cannot have a peaceful life. And Alutedar were the people who fulfill the secondary needs of the farmer. For example, the people who played musical instrument and singer, they were coming under the category of the Alutedar. So there are a number of Balutedar. Sometimes they are generally 12, but it is not very fixed. Sometimes it could increase and decrease depending on the strength of the village. Then we come across the reference of the people called Mirazdar and Upre in village. Now, Mirazdar were the people who had their own agriculture land and house in the village, and Upre were the landless laborer who were who came to that village, and they used to cultivate the land of the Mirazdar, and in return they were paid a certain in kind, that is generally the part of the agriculture produce. So this Upre were the people who were not the owner of the land, but then over a period of time they stayed at one place and then gradually tried to acquire the land, and then they tried to enter into the fold of the Mirazdar. So Upre were the landless laborer, and the Mirazdar were the people, the owner of the agriculture land. In the city, the administration is generally run by Kotwal, and Kotwal was having a lot of responsibility. He was maintaining the law and order, take the care of the sanitation of the village. He used to decide the prices of the community. He used to remove the disputes, as well as collect the tax called Kotwali. That is the tax paid by the city people, so that their life and property remains safe and they are provided with some sanitation facilities. Well, now let
Sir,
us go
today we
to
have Kotwal. Sir,
even today we have Kotwal. Yes, that's true. Well, so let us go to the now revenue administration. The revenue administration is the part of civil administration. The source of revenue was mainly land revenue. Chauth and Mokasa, I have already told you, 1/4 of the tax that generally went to the king. Remaining 3/4 is called Mokasa, that was divided among the Sardar. Sardeshmukhi is again 1/10 of the tax collected, which also went to the king. The method of assessing of the land tax is generally after seeing the crops. The Kulkarni and the Patil, they will go to the village and they will see the crops, and then they will assess how the tax should be collected. There was a method of giving relaxation to the farmer in case of financial distress like drought, or the agricultural land is burned by the enemy. Now the land, we come across the classification of land as well. For example, the land is generally referred as Saras, Madhyam, and Kanistha. So, Saras is a very good land, very fertile land. Madhyam is a medium, and Kanistha is the land which is having very low fertility, and the tax also accordingly differed. Saras land incurred more tax and Kanishta the minimum. The soil is also categorized as a black soil, rocky soil, Bagait soil, Jirait soil, Motasthal, Patasthal, and Amrai. These are the different categories of the soil, and depending on their productivity, the rate of taxation also differed. During the time of the Balaji Bajirao, we come across that the land that is cultivating rice, it should be paid rupees 10 per year per bigha. Sugarcane cultivating land will pay 5 rupees. Then vegetable cultivating land will pay 2 rupees. And if there is a mango orchard, that is Amrai, it is called in Marathi, mango will, the people who are cultivating mango and have mango orchard will pay 9 rupees for 1000 mango. So that is the general taxation that we come across in the period of Peshwa Balaji Bajirao. And Peshwa, during the period of Peshwa Madhavrao, we come across this different rate of land tax. Saras land, very good land, that was 5 rupees per biga in a year. Madhyam land 4 rupees and Kanishta land 3 rupees. The taxation also differed from region to region. For example, Mawar region that is surrounding Pune, it is not that fertile area, and Konkan, it is having a different kind of crops were cultivated in Konkan. It's very close to sea. So generally, the taxes they differed from region to region depending on the nature of cultivation, nature of the soil. For example, in case of in case of Konkan, sorry, Konkan will be having a lot of coconut trees. So Peshwa encouraged the cultivation of the coconut tree, and he declared that if you plant a coconut tree for next 20 years, there will be no tax. And after 20 years, you have to pay 4 anna per tree. Anna is a part of the rupees. For example, 16 anna used to make 1 rupees. So 4 anna per year was a very less tax. Peshwa generally they tried to give encouragement to agriculture, especially father of Peshwa, who was considered to be the very wise Peshwa. And here he declares that if anyone brings rocky land under the cultivation, half of that land will be given to him as an inam. So on the inam land, there will be no tax. And on the next half, there will be no taxation for next 20 years. After 20 years, that half of the land will be only tax. In case of loss of rainfall, loss due to war, land tax were exempted, farmers were exempted from paying a land tax. Also, at the same time, there was a system of tagai. Tagai was a method put in the place so that the farmers in the distress can be helped. And if there is a drought and their agriculture land was burned, their crops were burned at the time of the war, and they are having a lot of debt that they have taken a lot of money on loan from the money lender. The state came forward to help them in the form of a loan, and that is called tagai. So tagai is a loan given to the farmer with quite less rate, and they were rescued from the distress situation. Then apart from this land revenue, uh, well, apart from this land revenue, which is imposed on the agriculture produce, a number of other taxes which were also the source of income for the during the period. For example, Vihir Hunda. Vihir Hunda was given if the government well is used for irrigation. Government used to have the well, and if the farmer is taking water from that well, that will be called Vihir Hunda. Gharpatti is a tax on home. Lagin tax is tax on marriage. If somebody is getting married, he has to pay tax. Paddam, tax on the remarriage of widows. So this is the indication that widows were getting remarried, at least in certain cases. So if a widow is getting remarried, that is called part, and there she has to pay the tax. Then Maispatti is a tax on buffalo. Then Vancharai is if the common land or the government land, if the people are taking their cattle for the grazing, they has to pay Vancharai. Then Kapni, if the person is cutting grass from the government land, he has to pay taxes. Kotwali is a tax on the city people that went for their upkeeping civic services and their protection. Then Jastapatti. Jastapatti is an additional tax imposed on the population at the time of the war or at the time of certain crisis. So at the time of Jastapatti, a Khane-Sumari was done. Khane-Sumari is nothing but a kind of census done in which the record of the property of the people is accounted for. So if the people who are having more income, more property, they will be asked to pay more money at Jastapatti so that the war efforts can be sustained. Then Motarfa was a custom duty imposed on the merchants. So this is all about the civil administration. So we have seen since the beginning that how the king used to be the focal point, and later on it was shifted to Peshwa, and later on to Nana Fadnavis. There was a secretariat called Huzur Daftar. Please remember all these names. Try to remember all these important names, because you are in any case you are going to face the MCQ kind of examination. So mostly you will be getting that kind of examination. Huzur Daftar, what was Huzur Daftar, and what was FERD, what was the responsibility of Berji Daftar. Then it had Chalte Daftar, Beda Daftar, Saranjami Daftar. We have talked about provincial administration, how the subhas were created by Shahu, but it went on expanding. What is Kamavishi and what is Saranjam? Then what is Mokasa, Chaut, Sardeshmukhi? Subha was further divided into the different parganas, and then Mahal and village. The lowest administrative point was village. Patil, Kulkarni, Deshmukh, Deshpande were the important officers related to the village and related to the administration. Chaugule, then Balutedar, Alutedar, Mirasdar, Upre. This is already done. The classification land was classified, and the tax were generally dependent on the fertility of the land. What is Veer Hunda, what is Gharpatti, what is Lagin tax, what is Pat dam, this all you should be able to answer. So this is where the civil administration is over. Do you have any class now? Otherwise, we can, if you agree, we can just go ahead and discuss about the judicial administration. Is there any class now today, 11:30, 11:35?
No, sir.
Okay, okay.
Sir,
Yes, yes.
sir, I'll have to leave. I have another class at 11:45.
Okay, okay, okay. Please go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, so I hope you are able to see the word file of judicial administration. Can you? Are you able to see this file, judicial administration? Yes, somebody reply, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was loading.
Yes, sir.
Well, fine. When we try to understand the judicial administration under the Peshwa, the very important thing that strikes us is that, like today, there was no very written standard text that was guiding the judiciary. It was a slowly evolved system over centuries together, and generally the references is made to the Dharma Shastras. Now, in case of as in case of the civil administration, in case of judicial administration also, the king of Satara was at the pinnacle of this judicial administrative structure. If you can call it a structure, it was not a very well-defined structure as such. But nevertheless, King Shahu's his position as the supreme power in the judicial structure as well was acknowledged, at least till the time of Shahu's death. And after Shahu's death, definitely, as it happened in case of other administrative sphere, in case of judiciary also, it was Peshwa and the people promoted by Peshwa who became more supreme. Then apart from apart from Chhatrapati, there was Dharma Sabha, which was existence in the Maratha administration, and this Dharma Sabha obviously, and it was Peshwa, Sardar, and learned Brahmin. They used to be the member of this Dharma Sabha, which decided the important cases. Now, after 1750, Peshwa, he sidelined this Chhatrapati and Dharma Sabha, and he became supreme. And it was Peshwa who now started by Peshwa. And this he decided important civil and criminal cases under Peshwa. Now, many cases they were as there was not very well defined structure. So anybody who was having power in his hand automatically became the judicial head as well. So as from Chhatrapati, the power has shifted to Peshwa, and from Peshwa later on, as it shifted to Nana Fadnavis during the childhood of Savai Madhavrao. Nana Fadnavis also decided lot many cases. Many cases were resolved by Fadnavis. And now, in case of Jamdar, there was we don't come across any references that Peshwa is appointing Nyadhish or Peshwa is appointing any judge for them. Saranjamdar, they themselves either deliver the justice or they appointed somebody on their behalf for the delivery of justice. And in case if the matter is very important, generally that is referred to Peshwa's office. In case of this whole administrative structure, Subedar and Mamlatdar and however the different officers at the different level, they had right to deliver justice with the help of the subordinate staff, and so was Patil in the village. And in case it is required, this Subedar, Mamlatdar, and Patil, they could form a panchayat. They can take some more people with them so that the justice can be delivered. And uh, at different level, definitely the people had a right to approach the higher authority. Now, apart from that, we come across the references to the Goth Sabha. Goth Sabha was, like it was like Panchayat. So this Goth Sabha at the different level we have, which was the assembly of the people, and they decided the important cases. For example, at provinces we have Deshmukh, Deshpande, Shete, Mahajan, and Patil as an important member of Goth Sabha. At taluka and city level, it was Deshmukh and Deshpande. At the village level, Goth Sabha, it was Patil, Kulkarni, Chaugule, Balutedar, and Alutedar. All they combinedly form as a part of Goth Sabha. So there was generally seems to be an attempt to involve as many people as possible, so that the crime rate is reduced and the justice become more transparent. In any case, the British, they write that the crime rate in the Maratha kingdom was quite on the lesser side. The justice was very simple. Apart from the Sabha, we also get reference to the Brahma Sabha, which existed at the important places of pilgrimage or important places of learning, like Paithan and Pandharpur and Nashik. So the learned Brahmin used to be the head of this Sabha, this assembly, and they decided the cases related to the religion or related to the important caste issues. And the head of this Brahma Sabha was referred as Dharmadhikari. Then we also come across the reference to the Jati Sabha. The Jati Sabha is dealt with the cases related to the particular caste. Every caste is having their own rule and their own code of conduct. So if somebody is violating that Jati rule, this Jati Sabha, they decided the cases. And in case the matter cannot be resolved at that level, that is referred to the Brahma Sabha. The text, of course, there was no standard text as such, but nevertheless, number of texts were referred by, especially by the people of Brahma Sabha, and if the case is, of serious nature and being prosecuted or being conducted at the provincial level. So we come across reference to the certain text that is Minakshara, and the author of this Minakshara was Vidyaneshwara. Then we have another text that is Vyavhar Mukhya. Then next text is Dhanakamlakar, and then Yati Nirnaya. So these are the different texts which are generally referred to by the people at the time of delivering justice. Then the cases are divided, like we have civil and criminal cases nowadays. So corresponding to that, the cases are categorized into the two categories, that is Arthamula and Dandamula. Arthamula is Diwani cases, that is civil cases related to the succession, related to the property dispute, and Dandamula is criminal cases where the criminal punishment is given to the offenders. Arthamula is also related to the marriage, adaptation. Now we come across the different words that during the judicial administration. So please try to memorize these words. That is, Karina is a written complaint. So if somebody who wants to complain some injustice is done to him, if he will go to the Kulkarni, and Kulkarni in the village will write down the complaint. So there's written complaint, which is obviously everybody could not write during those days. The people who is aggrieved party will narrate their grievances, and that will be written down by Kulkarni or somebody. So that written complaint is called Karina. Then masla is a fees to be paid by the accused in the proceeding. Then majlis, sometimes back I referred to that there was a lot of influence of the Persian words in the Maratha administration. So majlis is obviously the word that became prevalent during the rule of Adil Shahi and Nizam Shahi rule. So that continue for a certain period. But Chhatrapati and Peshwa, they tried to replace it with the word called panchayat. So majlis. I think somebody's speaker is on. Please switch off. You are talking to somebody and that is coming here. All of you, please switch off your speaker. Well, okay. So Majlis, the word is later on referred to as Panchayat. So Panchayat is nothing but the group of people, the meeting who came together for the deliverance of justice. Then Majhar. What is the Majhar? Is a record of the proceeding of the Majlis. When the Panchayat sits together, all the proceeding is recorded and that is called Majhar. Then Thalapatra. Thalapatra is a place where the Majlis will come and sit or where the Panchayat will come and sit for the justice. Then Gunegari. Gunegari is, Harki I left. Harki is a fees paid by the victorious party. If there is a dispute, a victorious party as well as the party which is, accused or who is later on declared as being a culprit, they both had to pay the fees. So Harki is a fee which is paid by the victorious party, and Gunegari is a fee which is paid by the losing party, because now it is believed that he has committed the offense. Then Khushi Shreni. Khushi Shreni was an additional fee paid by the victorious party if his gain is quite high. For example, if there is a dispute related to Watandari. So if a person who is winning that case, he will get a watan, and as he gets watan, his income will increase manyfold. Every year he will be getting a lot of money from his watan. So in that case, the panchayat can ask him to pay additional tax, and that additional tax is called Khushi Shreni. So extra fee that is paid by the victorious party if the gain is very high. Then another word related to this judiciary system is Khudra Khat. It is also called Vatan Patra or it is called Nivad Patra. Nivad Patra is final decision taken by the panchayat, and that is handed over to both the party after they paid the taxes. They have to pay these taxes earlier, and then only this Nivad Patra or the final decision will be handed over. The government officers, so Majlis is comprising of Deshmukh, Deshpande, as well as the government officers like Subedar or Mamlatdar or Patil or Kulkarni, depending on the nature of the crime or the level of the crime. If the level of the crime or the level of the offense is smaller level, in the village level, Patil, Kulkarni and his official, they form the Majlis or they form the Panchayat. If it is at the provincial level, it will be the Subedar and the Deshpande and the Deshmukh. They will combinedly form the Panchayat or they will combinedly form the Majlis. So there will be certain government official who will be present there, and there will be some these hereditary respectable people like Deshmukh and Deshpande. So it will be the responsibility of the government official present in the Majlis or in the Panchayat to implement the decision of the Majlis. Now, what is the procedure? The procedure is depending on his place of residence. It could be Patil at the village level, it could be Mamlatdar at the taluka level, it could be Subedar. The official will understand the nature of the case, the complaint will be written down, and if the case is related to the caste, it will be referred to the Jati Sabha. If the case is related to the religion, it will be referred to the Brahman Sabha. And if not, then the Patil or Mamlatdar or Subedar, he will try to resolve the case along with his official at his own level. But if he feel that he is not able to resolve, not able to satisfy the party, he will call panchayat. So, the authority to call panchayat lies with the government official, Patil, Mamlatdar and Subedar. So the accused is called, and if accused is not coming, the case is divided in absentia without his presence. Now, next process is hearing and presenting of the witness, and all that is recorded, and then decision will be taken, the fees will be paid, and then handing over of the Vatan Patra, that is the final decision. So in case of, we come across certain more information about the judicial structure, that is a different type of evidences. One is called Manvi evidence, that is human evidence. That is something is written down or something is coming and giving witness in favor of the accused or against the accused. That is called Manvi witness, human witness. And there is a reference to the Daivi evidence as well. Daivi evidence is definitely based on the superstitious belief. That is, it is considered as the God will come and rescue the innocent person, and a lot of ordeal are being used to decide if the person is innocent or guilty. Like, holding up the iron ball and going around the temple, or taking out the coin or the metal piece from the boiling water and seeing that if his hands are burned or not. In case he is innocent, the God will not allow his hands to burn. So that kind of superstitious belief also prevailing to the larger extent in the administration. What kind of punishments were given? The death punishments were generally rare, and during those the death was not by hanging as we have nowadays, because that is considered as causing minimum pain to the accused. So death was given like trampling under the foot of the elephant, cutting off the head, blown by the cannon, or no hanging was there. Sometimes the punishment was like, the criminal punishment, cutting off the limbs was also given. And if the criminal runs away, his father or his whole family is also punished. We come across the reference of being the law at sometimes being discriminatory against the woman. In case of extramarital affair, it is woman who is held more responsible. The man can, escape after paying the fee, but the woman is put in the prison in some fort and she is made to work there. That was definitely quite unjustified. But woman generally was not given death punishment. She was not generally killed. The political prisoner, they relatively lived in comfort, but the criminal prisoner, obviously their life was quite harsh. They were made to work, or they were given the very strict punishment like the cutting of the limbs. If we want to take the overview of the judicial structure, there was no standard code. It generally depended on the tradition and certain text. It was crude but quite simple. People got a relatively quick justice. Panchayat played a very important. Caste factor was important. The higher caste people, generally, they were being left off. If you are rich, you can pay off and escape until unless the crime you have committed is very serious. There was a lot of super influence of superstitious also on the this judicial practices during the Peshwa's period. So here we end our judicial structure. So we are done with two parts today, that is civil administration. The revenue administration was the part of the civil administration, as well as we have done with the judicial administration as well. Next topic is military administration of the Peshwas, and that we will discuss in the next class. Let you know when that is going to be. Thank you so much. In case if you have any doubt, you can ask me right now. All right, there seems to be no doubt. So, okay, bye for today. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you, sir.